Welcome to Tuesdays at 2 here at Islander Sewing Systems. I'm Janet Prey, and we're here today to take a really deep dive into sleeves. But before we do that, let's have a little housekeeping, a few announcements. All right. If you saw the newsletter this morning, you know that we're going to be doing a replay of the Princess Seam Sloper class, and that's coming up in October. You could read more about it in the current newsletter, or if you go onto the website and click on special events, you can find it there, click on it, and it has a lot more detail on the second page, giving you all the information about the class. It's going to be on Wednesdays, the day it starts, the day it ends, how long the replay will be, everything. So if you are interested in getting an excellent fit every time you sew, that's where you want to start with a sloper. We have several slopers, but in this class, we're going to be doing the Princess Seam Sloper, and there are two to choose from, 1302 or 1301. And 1301 is the green one, this one, and it has a princess seam that goes over your shoulder. If you are a larger busted person of a D cup or above, then I highly recommend you stick with the shoulder seam. Otherwise, the arm side is excellent too. And it doesn't mean if you have a big bust, you can't wear the arm side princess. I just think this one on the shoulder is better to start with. And then it would be easy to transfer over to this one if you want that one as well. And our other slopers for bodices are a darted sloper. So when you don't want princess seams and you want a basic shirt or blouse top. And then we also have the knit sloper. So we have all these in pattern form, and it's really not a pattern that you're going to sew up. It's a pattern that you're going to use to pin fit to create a garment or a new pattern that only fits you and fits you well. So we are having some really great success with the current class, which ends tomorrow. But we have been able to fit some people who had very unusual fitting issues. So much so that if they went into a ready to wear store and bought a blouse, it would hang crooked every time because of the shape or the trajectory, actually, the twist of the body or the shoulders. And so I know once they uh, get to use their sloper, they're going to be thrilled to be able to make clothes that hang straight and look beautiful on them. All right, so that's the Princess Sloper. And again, if you have any questions, you can always email Brenda or I at islandersewing@comcast.net and uh, or read the information on the website. It starts in October, I think October 15th. All right, what else? Oh, next week's newsletter will have a special announcement, so don't miss that. And we put a few more knits on last week, two textured knits and one bamboo. So you might want to take a look at those for you that love our knits. All right. So, as advertised in the newsletter, I'm going to do a deep dive into sleeves. And the more I work with people on slopers and teaching sloper classes, the more I realize how elusive it is to fitting a sleeve and how little most of us understood about sleeves until all of a sudden we needed to know. And that was because the sleeve doesn't fit or the sleeve doesn't hang right. Okay, so one of the first things I promised to tell you was good or bad sleep, how to identify it. And I've done this several times on Facebook Live. And and I'm going to go into more depth, but just to begin with, if you've got a pattern from an independent pattern company, maybe it's download only, you're not really sure, you never heard about them before, or even if you did, you might want to just cut the sleeve out, fold it directly in half. Now I want to show you what happens. I'm going to fold this in half. This is the back. This is the front. when you fold it in half, this is what you should see. A back arm side that's longer than the front. If these match and it is totally symmetrical, the pattern, the sleeve will not hang straight, I guarantee you, and the pattern maker doesn't know what they're doing. So either ask for your money back or don't buy any more patterns from that person. Because if they can't get a sleeve right, there's lots of other things that are wrong, including an arm side. All right, so that's just the first step. I'm going to tell you some more in a minute about why that's longer. Why don't I just go into that now? Okay. The reason that needs to be longer, is this a good place? All right. The reason the back arm side needs to be longer is because of the human body shape. Represented in red here, I have the back arm side. And the back arm side goes around because we have shoulder blades back there and it has to go this way. The front arm side actually has, you have a little hollow spot in this part of your body. So it doesn't need to go around. It goes more straight down and into the arm side. And if you look at these two, you can see how much longer the back is than the front. What happens when the non-pattern makers sell a pattern and they have symmetrical sleeves, now we have the same distance in the back as we had in the front, which means we don't have enough distance. So what happens when you wear that shirt that doesn't have enough distance in the back, the neck keeps choking you and it keeps pulling the whole shirt backwards because it's begging for more room back here. It has to have it. So you cannot and do not want a sleeve that isn't longer in the back than the front. And that includes the arm side. It's not just the sleeve. The back of the arm side needs to be a half an inch longer. That's the stitching line, not the cut line. Let's keep that clear because I found that several of my people following me will measure the cut line by mistake. So make sure you measure the stitching line. And if this comes out to 10, then this one should be 10 and a half. 16th or an eighth of an inch isn't real relevant unless the sleeve doesn't hang right. So try to stay with a half inch longer in the back arm side as well as the sleeve cap. Okay. You see anything popping up that we need to address before I go to the next one?
I went out of focus for a minute, but back.
Okay.
Oh, we're good. Okay.
Another thing that will help you identify a good fit of a sleeve into your arm side is that the arm side and the sleeve from the notch to the cut edge should be the same shape. So when you put this on here, that should just sit in there really nicely. If it doesn't, and you've got to move the sleeve a little bit one way or the other to get it to fit into the arm side, that's what will cause your sleeve to twist and not hang right. So this is very important. And the same thing is true with the back. So you want to confirm that from the notch to the cut edge in the front, notch to the cut edge in the back, match the arm side of the pattern that you're putting it in. That is something that I learned very late. I sewed for years before I did the pattern drafting, and I was surprised to know that. Um, but that's a very important thing about getting a sleeve to hang straight. All right, arm side versus sleeve cap. So let's talk about that arm side and sleeve cap issue. So when you want to know if your sleeve is going to fit into this arm side, you have to measure the stitching line, like I just said, not the cut line. So in this case, you're going to need to draw your stitching lines on. So what I do is in straight areas, you can use a straight edge. In curved areas, I just walk it around at whatever the seam allowance is. Okay. And then if you have a curved ruler, these are very helpful. You can measure the arm side. Now remember, there's a stitching line here and a stitching line here. We only want to measure between the stitching lines. And then we get right on top of that. Now I can't exactly see what I'm doing, folks, but I'm pretty sure we get that right at 0 and you get it right on top of the line. You know what I'm talking about. Now, if you don't have a curved ruler, you can use a regular ruler. And you just stand it on the edge and put it right on top of that stitching line, just like that. But it has to be measuring the stitching line. So you'll measure the stitching line of the front arm side, the stitching line of the back arm side. You'll make a note of it. Then you'll measure the stitching line of the front of the sleeve and the stitching line of the back. This is the front and this is the back. Now you're going to compare the two. What is the difference? Well, what you want is a difference of 1/4 to 3/8 inch, the sleeve being longer. So if my front arm side measures 9 and my front sleeve measurement is 9 3/8, I'm ready to put this in. That's good. 3/8 isn't too much. It's bordering on too much. 1/4, I like even better. Try to stay under 1/2. And that's, it's going to fit. Same thing with the back. Now remember, we have a notch here. This is where you're measuring to because this hits at the shoulder. And this is our shoulder seam. So we're measuring from shoulder seam to underarm, shoulder seam to underarm. So don't measure at the top, measure at the notch. All right? Yes. So again, you're going to measure the arm size, you're going to measure the sleeves. The corresponding sleeve cap should be between 1/4 to 3/8 inch bigger than the arm side. But let me tell you that it's perfectly okay if it's exactly the same. If it's exactly the same, it should work just fine. So anywhere from exactly the same to 3/8 is as much ease as you want to put into a basic sleeve cap. Okay, were you looking?
No question.
Okay, we're doing great. Everybody understands everything we're saying. This is wonderful. All right, so that's the sleeve versus the arm side. And now we know how to make sure that the sleeve is going to fit in the arm side at the bottom as well as the stitching line. Let's talk about what if they don't, they aren't right. Remembering the back needs to be 1/2 inch longer than the front and that the sleeve needs to be bigger than the arm side. If it turns out that your sleeve isn't bigger than your arm side, you may want to carve a little bit out to make sure that, and to make that stitching line just a little bit longer. Let's say that you needed no more than 1/4 more. Or if it's the reverse and you need to add, you'll be able to come in and just put a little bit more by just moving that curve in a little bit. What really helps is the arm side ruler that I have buried here somewhere. This guy will help you change the shape of that. So let's say it's this one. And we want to just make this a little bit longer. We could just scoop that out without changing here. And I'm just rotating the ruler, and I could do this and then come right back in. So that would take just a little bit. Then measure that. Don't cut it out, just measure it to make sure that it's going to hit the number you need. So again, anywhere from exactly the same to 3/8 inch bigger, the sleeve cap needs to be. Otherwise, you need to make some changes, and this would be the way to do it. Okay, the other thing is a lot of times pattern, depending on your body type, the arm size either going to be too high or too low. Now, also, this is a comfort issue for some people. So, in my case, I like my arm size average to a little bit low. Brenda, she likes hers higher, but she's got a smaller frame than I do. And it's a comfort issue. So, everybody, each to his own, as they say. So, here's it very simple. You're just going to make sure you maintain the same shape of that horseshoe, and you either lower it or raise it. And it shouldn't be a drastic amount. Something's really wrong if it's drastic. Either there's something wrong with the pattern. Well, there's something wrong with the pattern if it's a drastic change. Okay. All right. Another thing, when we fit a sleeve. So when you put a sleeve in for the first time, here's a way to do a really good test. You're going to have your center line vertically all the way down the pattern. And then you're going to put in a bicep line. That bicep line is where the sleeve hits you under the arm and it comes across the arm. So the bicep is right here. Here's the underarm. And so that's where that bicep is. So I try to hit it at the stitching line, but you could hit it at the cut line or in between. It doesn't matter. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on to the next step. No. So yes, that's the bicep. But it must be, no matter where you put it in this little 5/8 inch area, it must be perpendicular to the vertical line. Okay. And then you're going to put the sleeve in. After you put the sleeve in, this line should hang perfectly vertical. And this line should be parallel to the floor. And if it's not, that sleeve has to be adjusted accordingly until you get that straight and this completely parallel to the floor. So what we do is we just take a sample piece of the fabric and we draw this right on with an ink or a marker. I like black Sharpie markers because they are so obvious. You don't make a lot of mistakes because you see exactly what you see is what you get. Okay. So that's what I would do if I wasn't sure about the sleeve hanging correctly or fitting correctly. Some people have an issue where the sleeve, where the sleeve will pitch out from the arm. And it's not a pleasing look, but a lot of people don't know that they can fix that. They think maybe that's just the way the pattern was designed, and it's not. It's probably your body type. So you might need to know this for other, for multiple reasons. So what I would do if this was pitching out like that is about a third of the way down from the shoulder seam. I'm going to take the stitching out here and in the back as well. And then you let the sleeve fall until it hangs straight. And then you measure the distance it fell. So this is the distance. This is where it fell. We let it go and it fell down here. So imagine this is the arm. We measure this. It's 3/4 of an inch. We know we have to add 3/4 of an inch up here and get our sleeve cap a little bit higher because that's our body type. This didn't happen to me, but I think this happened on Brenda's when we were doing hers, and maybe Michelle's. So This may not be a problem you have, or it may be a problem you always have and you didn't know how to fix it. So this is how you fix it. Just drop that until it falls down here, and then just measure from here to here, and you know exactly what you have to do. All right. All right, I want to talk about forward shoulders, but let's make sure we don't have any questions in the meantime.
Mm, no, no question.
Okay, I just got to find my sample. There it is. All right. So, this is two students I have in class right now, and they were generous enough or kind enough to let me show these pictures. But both of these ladies have forward or somewhat forward shoulders. I've outlined here to show you that instead of the shoulder hanging straight here, it's going this way. It's headed forward of her body. When you stand straight and your arms go down to your side, if they go straight down to your side, chances are you don't have a forward shoulder. But if they lean a little bit toward the back, that's what happens. So this is a forward shoulder. So what you have to do with a forward shoulder is identify the center of the shoulder. Where is the center of that shoulder? Well, it's right here. But the shoulder seam was back here. But that would have been if she had an average shoulder, which she doesn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the shoulder seam to the center of her shoulder and measure the distance. So we're going to pretend that that's a 1/4 inch difference that she has to move that sleeve forward. And why do forward shoulder people need to move the sleeve forward? Because their sleeve is never going to hang straight, because this would be the straight of the grain for their sleeve. But this is their arm. So their straight of grain has to be going this way, not this way. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We'll take a sleeve. I always like to draw a straight line whenever I'm tracing or modifying a pattern that I can identify the straight of grain on. And that's really important because we want to make sure we always stay, and we're making a little bit in a new pattern. So we always want to stay on grain. Okay. So what did we say? We said we moved that forward a 1/4 inch. So bear with me here. I'm going to make a line. All right. This is a 1/4 inch from center, and we're moving it forward. Okay. Doesn't make a lot of sense yet. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice the cap off right almost at the cutting line, or very close to it. So I'm going to cut that off, trying to keep it nice and straight. And I'm going to slice the cap off. Now, keeping that straight of grain, I'm going to move this to there. Yeah. All right, well, let's put this one on first. I'll put this one on first. Keep it straight. And then this one, we're going to move the position by that 1/4 inch because we moved that forward. All right, so now the notch has been moved forward that 1/4 inch just by moving this. Now you can see that we have definitely shortened the front, which we needed to do, because here's where the front ended up before. And we have lengthened the back, which is exactly what we needed to do, because now the back is this much longer. So it's pretty much that quarter of an inch added here and the quarter inch off here, but now we have a nice sleeve. We're going to trace that around. And this will now be our straight of the grain or center of our sleeve. After you do that, you definitely want to do what we did in the beginning, which was fold our sleeve in half and make sure that it ends up here. Everything ends up here. So you see this is here, because if these aren't at the same level and the same width and everything, the sleeve will not hang straight. So if you're going to make any alterations to your sleeve after you get done, fold it in half, nice and square and neat, and make sure everything's meeting here. If that stitching line on here meets here, you have done an excellent job. If not, move it and then it'll be an excellent job. We're going to trace right around this guy, put that on, make sure we put all of our marks, and then we'll do the test because it's a forward shoulder. And especially if you've never done it before, you want to test it out. So do that sample, put that bicep line on there, put your straight of grain on there, and base that sleeve in and see if it works. Okay, now there are a lot of different ways to to move the sleeve cap forward for a forward shoulder. There's lots of ideas on moving the seam. One is sometimes it's so far forward that they take the sleeve and they slant it back to the original line. I have never done that. I think we tried that once on Brenda's. But unless this is so far forward it looks weird, I just would like to keep it straight. But there are people that will slant it back to the original. So even though it's in the center of the arm right here, they slant the seam back a little bit. As far as the sleeve cap, there are people that will slice off only this little bit up here and move it. But that causes the need to draw in more lines, where this does not. This has given us almost no extra work and no extra having to eyeball the shape of a sleeve. Although, remember, I use this for the arm side. This is also the sleeve. So you do a sleeve this way and you get the cap this way, and then you reverse it and you get the underarm this way. So this is an excellent little tool if you have to do sleeve work. But that's how I found, and I tried a lot of them. Some of them will take a wedge out of here and then move it. Some will, like I said, take only a small amount off. There are a lot of different ideas of how to do it. And one might work better for you than it worked for somebody else. So if you have a forward shoulder, and a lot of people don't know they have it, you need to just identify if your sleeves aren't hanging right, they're always hanging crooked and or not comfortable. That could be the issue. So take a good look and see if maybe you do have a forward shoulder. All right. I think I covered everything that I wanted to today. I bet we have a question or two.
Sally would like to know, how do you add to the top of the sleeve?
Oh, okay. Sally, well, trying to maintain the same stitching line, you're going to raise it up here and you're going to have to blend your lines in. So if it's going to be rough. All right, so if we want to go up 3/4, what I do is this. All right, and then here's my 3/4 up here. And now I've got to blend this back down into this. Quarters and blend it. So you see, it's not too bad. We're upside down and spur of the moment. Okay, so you're going to raise it up. You're going to identify where it is. Of course, you draw the straight lines and do everything. I'm just doing this really haphazard. And then I would trace this whole thing, and then I would raise it up, and I trace just this top, and then figure out how to blend them together. And it's not figuring it out; you just can see by the your eyeball what you have to do to blend them together. And again, this guy comes in really handy to do that, and it would look a lot better than what I did, as you can see. And so that will help a lot too. Let's see how we want to blend that guy. There we go. So, did that make sense, or do you have more questions about that? So many times, especially if you haven't done pattern work, it's a little daunting when they say, oh, blend the lines together or redraw. And it's like, well, I don't draw. I'm not a good drawer. I don't want to do that. I'm scared. Well, you can always use the original sleeve cap like I did. I do the same thing when people are doing their slopers and their arm size get out of shape. Well, take your original pattern piece and lay it on there. Even though your arm size moved in or out, you still need the same shape. So that could be really helpful. You have another question?
No.
You gotta be kidding me. That's it. All right. Well, that's good. That's very good. I don't know how else we're doing.
Sally says, got it.
Oh, good, Sally. Good. Yeah, when I don't plan a demo, I'm always, wondering. I'm glad.
Um,
It can be a little messy in trying to maintain a similar or same uh, stitching line, though. Because as soon as you raise this up, you lengthen that stitching line. And you may have to go in and take a little bit out. When you have to take some out, yeah, you do something like this, where you make lines and then you have to slit, it's slash and overlap. And you'll find that in all that information in Pattern Making Made Easy. So this book is fabulous for not only for pattern drafting, but just for changing pieces. You got a sleeve, but you would rather it was a bishop sleeve than a plain sleeve, or you want to make your sleeve cap bigger or smaller. All those kind of things are covered in here that are really, really helpful. And a lot of times in demonstrations and things, I use pages from that book to explain how to do different things because it was just so well done. But it's, these are an inch more, at least an inch apart. Usually it's more like a half inch apart. You split them, you slice all the way to the edge, and then you overlap them. But I think you need a real serious demonstration for that. So that we'll leave for another day.
do you have another question?
Oh, okay.
Joni, what's wrong with a sleeve that fits, but when you move your arm, it feels restricted from your biceps area? It's not too tight, but the movement is restricted when you move your arms.
Well, there's 2 or 3 things it could be, Joni. It could be that the back is too narrow. So, here we go. Here's the back. So if the back is just about, let's say, 1/4 of an inch too narrow on both sides, that's a 1/2 inch too short in the back, and that will pull. That will cause you to feel very uncomfortable. The only other thing I can think of besides that would be that your I had it. Uh, it's either too tight across the back. What was our other comment about that? Oh, your arm size too low. Sometimes if you can move that arm side up, and oftentimes it might even need to be added a little onto the underarm of the sleeve, it gives you more movement this way. But it's the back that's going to be too tight to give you movement this way. So you have to let us, you know which one of those it is. But I understand what you're saying. It's very uncomfortable. My guess it's the back. Okay, Brenda, do we have any more questions? Just ignore it. Okay.
No, no other questions.
Anybody out there calling us, we're not answering right now. It happens once in a while. Okay. So, yes, Joni, I think it's the back. It's just a little too snug on you. This is why we're making slopers, people, because you can be, and I've seen Joni because I'm working with her. Is that Joni Ludwig?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, she doesn't know, but she doesn't have an unusually wide back, but just we're all built just slightly different than the next person. So one pattern to the next, depending on who drafts it, might not have enough ease in the back. So try that. I think that might help. Okay. All right. Since we don't see any other questions, now I'll answer any questions at this point. It doesn't have to be about sleeves. Just
I don't know where it is.
oh,
Okay.
otherwise, remember to watch for the newsletter next week for a new announcement. And if you have any questions in the meantime about the Sloper class, any of our products, today's presentation, whatever we can help you with, that's what we're here for. And we'd be more than happy to do that for you. I think Brenda sees another question.
I do.
Okay.
Pam, I'm working with a Vogue pattern. Oops. Pattern that can be either sleeveless or with sleeves. It keeps jumping. Shouldn't the arm side be different size for each?
Yes.
They are the same for both versions.
That's too bad. Okay. So who was that? Was Pam?
Pam.
Is
Yes.
it Pam Clark?
Yes.
Pam. Okay. Pam, you are absolutely 100% correct. So you can use a pattern that it has a sleeve in it and then make something that's sleeveless, but you have to raise the arm side. So whenever we've got patterns, our 5 Easy Tee, and there's a sleeveless version in there, but we have an entirely different bodice for the sleeveless version because we had to raise the arm size. Where's my arm side pictures? Somebody broke in the stove. Here. Yeah. Okay. So, what was the question?
Should they be different for
Yes.
sleeves and sleeves?
So this would be a perfect example. If we would raise this arm side, and I think it's about a half an inch is recommended to raise the arm side because we have to have clearance here for the sleeve. But when it is sleeveless, we want to cover up any undergarments. And if you don't raise it, chances are your bra or camisole or just too much of your skin will be showing. Now, I've seen them on models where that arm size is so low, you can see right through and get right in there. So you want to definitely keep an eye on that. And if the pattern does not give you a different arm size for the sleeveless, before you make it, make sure that it's not going to be exposing too much skin or undergarments. And that's why you raise it. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter. Thanks for that question, Pam. I think that probably helps some other people as well. And that's one of the inherent problems. And Pam's working with a commercial pattern that's got a good reputation, and it's like that. Some of these new to buying pattern making software and never having taken a pattern making class people that sell their patterns online, they wouldn't know any of this stuff. And that's what you'll get with some of those. But you'll get a lot more problems than one little problem. If one Vogue pattern, if all I have to do is raise the arm side on the sleeveless, I don't care. But when I come across a unknown pattern company or a company I know doesn't have the education or the proper software to make the pattern, now I'm going to worry because if one little thing's wrong, it's probably 20 things.
Pam says, I just used my sloper and ignored the pattern. So thank you for telling me I was right. Islander sewing right again.
Okay.
Um,
I'll repeat that because I'm not sure you could hear Brenda, but Pam said that she ignored the pattern and just used her sloper, but she was really pleased to know that she was right. So yes, she's right. And because she used her sloper, she could see that that's the beauty of the sloper. You put the sloper on the commercial pattern and you go, well, that's not going to fit me over here. Well, that's too big in the up here and it's too tight down here. You don't have to worry about that. You put the sloper and you make the changes and it's going to fit every time. So that's exciting about using a sloper. So that next sloper class again starts in October.
Couple of questions and comments.
Okay.
Eileen says, I have sloping shoulders and forward roll. So she's got,
She
and
Eileen says she has sloping shoulders and
forward roll, she
forward
said.
roll. So there's the whole shoulder shape of the shoulder is going to change on her. So if she's got really a slope, oops, well, that didn't work. That's how much it's going to change. That's going to change right there. Now, if she just made up a commercial pattern, she would have in this area right here a bunch of slop, just like a fold or loose. And it just enough of those imperfections in the pattern makes it look really sloppy. One little one, maybe. But if you can have it all fit you right and look nice and be comfortable, why not? So she's the sloping shoulder, plus she's got the forward shoulder. So not only is her shoulder angled down, now we got to move her, move it forward, move the sleeve cap forward for her.
Okay, a couple of people said they're gonna have to watch this again. Very helpful.
The issue too is with the two. Who was that again with the two?
Eileen?
Eileen. Okay. The thing is that those of you who have to do these alterations on patterns, and every time you open up a pattern, you got to do the sloping shoulder, the forward shoulder, the arched back or the hollow back, the whatever. All these different things. That probably isn't why you want to suffer. Is all the time you spend fixing up a pattern, and then the next pattern you got to do it all over again. Now a sloper takes longer than making a few alterations to a pattern. But once you have it done, you're done. You're never going to have to do that again. You're never going to have to do all those changes because they're already in your sloper. So you'll either be able to use your sloper pieces in place of theirs, or you'll know exactly how to draw the lines on theirs to get them to match yours. You do one or the other. And when you take the sloper class, I explained to you. Sometimes you're just going to use your sloper pieces. Other times you're going to make a few changes to the commercial pattern.
Okay. Question. Carolyn asks if the shape of the arm side changed. Is the shape of the arm side changed if you change the sleeve cap?
No. So your arm size is going to stay the same. We don't change the arm side except for under what I showed you where you just needed to curve a little it out or put a little bit in order to get your sleeve to fit. Otherwise, the arm size stays as it is because, especially if you've already, it fits you and it's hanging right. It has to stay that way. So you have to adjust the sleeve to fit the arm side. That is what we do. We don't adjust the arm side to fit the sleeve. So if you have an issue, let me know and I'll tell you how to make that correction. Sometimes you have to use a different sleeve. So if you've had to make alterations to your pattern, and what a lot of our people making slopers right now have learned is we tell them, go ahead and measure those arm size and make a note of it. Then pull out the pattern piece that corresponds to the size you cut out. Let's say we cut a 12. So we pull the 12 sleeve out and we measure, and it's not going to fit in our arm side. It's going to be way too big. It's got like an inch ease. Oh, we're going to go down to the 10 and we're going to measure the 10. Oh, look at here. The 10's much closer. We may even have to go to the 8. Oh, the 8's perfect. So it's all about figuring out what sleeve is going to fit that arm side as opposed to changing the arm side. Unless there's something wrong with the arm side. If the arm side is sitting on the body the way it's supposed to, we can't make much changes. But if the sleeve is a little too full or not quite full enough, we can add and subtract to that sleeve cap.
Cindy says, your info is always so helpful and educational with a lot of exclamation points.
So thank you for all those exclamation points, Cindy. She's obviously enjoyed today's presentation and got a lot out of it. And I'm so glad you guys get to watch it again. We've really felt we've provided an extra service for our followers by putting this on YouTube later today. That way, those people who are too busy with schedule to stop at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or on a different time zone than we are, they have the opportunity to watch it any time of the day or night as often as they like. You could ask questions on there too. So if you come to a spot and you say, oh, what did she mean by that? Just ask the question there and I will answer it. Or you can send me an email, islandersewing@comcast.net. And I think that's the end of our questions. And we know that you're telling us you appreciate us, and we certainly appreciate you. And again, watch for next week's newsletter. If you are not on our newsletter list, go to the website, islandersewing.com, and up on the top menu bar on the right, you can click on newsletter and get signed up for that newsletter. It comes out 3 to 4 times a month. And we just keep you up to date on what we're doing, or sometimes we give you some short tutorials in there as well. So that's it for today's Tuesday at 2 here at September 2nd. And thank you so much for joining us here at Islander Sewing Systems. For Brenda Rogerson and myself, Janet Prey, thanks again. We'll see you next month, first Tuesday of October. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.